from Sustainable Equipment here, any growers? Just curious. Did they make it? No? Oh, that's a shame. So anyway, butternut squash. What would you do with this?
Food system. So we had our first on food insecurity, hosted by one of the Food Policy Council members, Kathleen Dorman. Our second one was at Kent County Hospital. The chair of the production work group of the Food Policy Council led a panel on institutional purchasing. And I'm thrilled tonight. This is a topic near and dear to my heart. And I'm thrilled that Chef Dave Rocheleau from Crossroads, Rhode Island is going to be leading the conversation tonight on food waste, specifically about an exciting project the Food Policy Council is going to be involved with that he can talk a little more about, an EPA program called Food Too Good to Waste. So on your tables, there's a bunch of information about the Food Policy Council, mission, vision, to give you kind of the
Not in the way
quick
here,
and dirty. Food Policy Council, it is a 22-member council, and there are 4 work groups and a number of committees. The goal is really to try to sort of move the needle forward on food system issues in Rhode Island. So I mentioned we have 4 work groups on 4 different topics, really looking at issues of access. How do we make sure all Rhode Islanders have access to fresh, healthy, affordable food? Production, how do we make sure that an increasing proportion of local production and kind of increasing demand for local product is going? Economy, how do we make sure that the local food system is a growing part of Rhode Island's economy? And finally, tonight, we're going to be talking about something very closely related to the environment goal of the Food Council. How are we encouraging our food systems to strive for zero waste and sort of create healthy working conditions for everyone who is involved in it? With that, I'm going to turn it over to Dave, who will kick us off for tonight. So thank you all for coming out again.
Media likes to put those out there. You've heard about the 99% recently, you've heard about 47%, but I'm going to throw a percentage at you. 40%. 40% of something is kind of a lot, right? So if suddenly you had a 40% cut in pay, that would be dramatic, wouldn't it? That would be devastating. Suppose you came home one day, you had a 40% smaller house. You'd notice that, wouldn't you? What if every day 40% of the food supply just disappeared, just went away? That's exactly what's happening in this country. 40% of the food supply. It's crazy. That represents about $165 billion from the economy, just wasted, put into the garbage can. When I think about all the people that are food insecure out there, how many people could you feed with that? Lots. Just the economic impact alone is enough to give you a good reason to try to reclaim all that. But there are a lot of really far-reaching consequences to food waste that maybe people don't think of. So I'm going to show you a quick video that illustrates that, and then we'll talk more about
There's enough food for everyone on the planet. Yet there are 870 million hungry people on the planet, and 2.5 million children die of malnutrition every year. Worldwide, we produce 27% more food per person today than we did 50 years ago, even as the global population has more than doubled. Yet in Europe and North America, each consumer wastes 210 to 250 pounds of food per year. As millions of people go to bed hungry, half of the food produced in the United States is wasted between the farm and the fork, discarded as a result of the inefficiency in the human-managed food chain. In the U.S., nearly 8% of the food is lost in production. The food industry loses 4%, supermarkets are responsible for 6%, restaurants contribute 15% of the food in the landfills, households throw away nearly 25% of the food they buy. The cost of this waste is about $165 billion. That's more than 5 times as much as we spent on foreign economic aid in 2011. This waste doesn't only affect people, the environment suffers from it as well. Did you know throwing away 1 gallon of milk is like throwing away 1,000 gallons of water? That's because it takes that much fresh water to produce 1 gallon of milk. A quarter of our water used for irrigation is used on food that is wasted. So when you throw away your food, you are throwing away all the water that it takes to grow, produce, and ship it as well. On top of that, an estimated 16% of methane emissions from our landfills are caused by food waste. By saving 15% of the food we normally throw away, we can feed more than 25 million Americans every year. If we start paying attention to what we waste, we can end up saving a lot more than just leftovers.
There you go. Anyone social working group in particular is that there's a double benefit here to food recovery. So not only so fortunately EPA has given us a great little template for how to deal with this. So this is the food recovery hierarchy. So it's such a huge problem. 40% of the food waste is occurring. 40% of the food supply is being wasted, I should say. So how do we even begin to deal with all that, given all the different situations and the diversity of things that are happening? This is a great little hierarchy to show us what are the best ways, and also how to prioritize what we should do to either avoid waste or to deal with it after it happens. So just quickly from the top, we're all about striving for zero waste. So that's such a huge piece of what we do in our working group. So among some of the other projects that we were working on, we thought initially that we'd want to come up with a resource for people in their homes, but also for food service providers as well. Connect with some community groups and see what we can do about a small pilot in advance of either a statewide or a nationwide campaign. EPA is going to roll out with it at some point, probably next year. But this is what they're trying to accomplish in Rhode Island as a pilot. So first, we want to see quantifiable reduction in food waste. Of course, you have to get a baseline first. So we would actually recruit participants in apartment buildings. Some apartment buildings have a community room. So that'd be a great place. Schools, other organizations. So we recruit people and then stopping by what you need. You know, some people just don't plan out their menus well enough. If you're like me, you know, I'm a dude that just like go in with the cart and just start throwing stuff in. I think a lot of people do that, you know what I mean? So prep now, eat later. It's like, you know, stuff is in the fridge and I have to cook it and I don't feel like it. And I had to work late 3 times this week and maybe food that you have in the fridge is going, you know. Smart storage, of course, keeping things fresh longer. What's the best way to store things so that it's going to last for a long time? And then smart saving, which you buy how grasp of that lingo to decide, is this avoidable or unavoidable? I guess you could train people for that, but I just want to keep it simple. I mean, it's going to depend, I think, on the populations that actually come forward and participate, what their level of motivation is, things like that. But when we design a pilot for Rhode Island, I mean, these are the things we need to think about. So, when I was preparing for this, it occurred to me that if people thought more like a chef in their homes, then you could prevent a lot of waste from happening. Because like I said, as a chef, you're running a restaurant, whatever it might be, it's like food is money. And you're going to squeeze the most yield out of it as you can. And whatever the leftovers are in the fridge, you're going to make it work. But the key is planning your meals out and coming up with an exact list of things that you need. So if I was running a restaurant and that was my menu, grilled cheese, lasagna, salad, these are the things I need to keep on hand, right? In your restaurant at home. That's how we do it. So, knowing that this is my range of ingredients here, what do I need? Well, what do I have in-house already? So let's just say I had some bread in the freezer. Wonder Bread. Bought it on sale, threw it in the freezer. Good, I don't need to buy that. I wonder why people. Vinegar and oil. A little bit of that stuff goes a long way, right? So chances are you'll have that in your pantry or salad dressing or something. And then tomato sauce. You're cooking in bulk, freezing it, you already have that, right? So this is your shopping list right here. This is exactly the way we do it in a restaurant or in a list. Once it becomes pretty routine, you should be really good, and I found this in my career as well too. You can just track how much you need of something. Of course, that's a very simple menu. If you have kids at home, you're brown bagging it, it's going to get complicated. But over time, you'll find you can figure out, all right, I can get in the actual flesh right there, and always with the knife away from you, and